Following is a Scotch Media production.
Assume the worst, right? Assume the person who hits you is going to bounce. Get a dash cam if you can. And I know, again, adrenaline's rushing. Whip your phone out, take a picture of the license plate, try to get a description, get something, but definitely call the police.
Man, welcome to the studio. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you for having us.
I've been wanting to have you in here for a long time.
I'm an individual, but I just refer to myself as a plural. But thank you for having me. There we go.
You are larger than life.
I try.
Mr. Michael Day is one of the best in the industry, I'd like to say. I'll give you that for sure. He does an amazing job at the personal injury game here in Atlanta, and not just Atlanta, Georgia as well. And we're rapidly growing here in the city, as you know, and the state too. Everyone's moving here.
It's getting crazy.
Yeah. Some stats that I actually looked up, right? Georgia has 11 million people, a little less than that currently. By 2030, we should be having about 11.5 million.
Are they all on 285 at like 3 to 5 p.m. 5 days a week? Because I swear to God, every time I'm getting in my car, it seems like there's 11 million people out there causing a lot of traffic and problems.
That's Georgia, right? But
it feels like it's in Atlanta. Okay, just to be fair, but all right.
Well, I got more numbers.
I digress. Go ahead.
I got more numbers for you. In Atlanta, Georgia, there's 500,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. And in the metro area, there's 6.3 million. By 2030, there should be about 6.8 million. That means that 500,000 extra people coming in are going to be moving to Metro Atlanta, most likely traveling 285 by 2030.
Feels like they're already here.
Yeah, it's congested out here. In the cities, we're full. That means more people, more car accidents, right?
Yeah.
And this is what Mr. Michael Day and his team specialize in.
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you for the compliment. We, as a team, I think we can dominate, and we do a very, very good job. But like any good business, I think giving credit to the staff, the team that allows us to do the job and the results that we do is, clearly it comes from a team effort. But yeah. In Metro Atlanta alone, it's insane the amount of accidents you see. And like the biggest statistic, I don't even know a number, and you hear statistics like, well, what is that coming from? I have no idea to validate this, but just in general, the amount of times that we have a client who calls us months after an accident and they get absolutely zero treatment, or they don't call the police, is like, it's mind-numbing. You get in an accident, you have to call 911. You have to have a record of it, plain and simple. That is literally like rule number one. And if you're hurt, from the doctor's side, obviously, you want to get someone better. From an attorney side, we want to make sure they're getting all the care that they need. But most importantly, from just their perspective, right? Yeah. You want to make sure that you're getting better. And the documentation of it is so vital and so important, because no insurance company is going to go out of their way to help you. They're looking for reasons to stack the deck against you, to devalue your case. And it's your job to get better. But sometimes you need assistance with that. But to each is their own. I think it's super, super important from that statistic is making sure that you're getting yourself taken care of if you do get hurt.
Yeah, and faster than slower is, I think, what you're getting at. You have 100%. That 2 years of being able to report it. Is that correct?
You have a statute of limitations of 2 years in the state of Georgia, which means you either have to have your case resolved, settled, or file a lawsuit to preserve your statute of limitation. In terms of treatment, from just a common sense standpoint, if you're hurt, go get care.
Right.
Right. You're injured, go get care.
We're usually the first line chiropractors, the first line that help that physical therapy, and then we spread out and kind of see more things with the patient. That helps the case, right?
The case facts speak for themselves. If you're hurt, you're hurt, and it's documented, right? Whatever you need that's medically warranted. But from the standpoint of the patient care or just general, again, I go to common sense here. Mm-hmm. If you're hurt, why would you not go seek medical treatment? Seeking medical treatment does two things. It gets you better, which is the primary goal, right? And it also allows documentation that we use as lawyers to validate what you went through. And if you don't have that validation in writing, they're not just going to take anyone's word for it. But coming back full circle, the most important thing is to make sure they're getting the care that they need and what's warranted. I think the focus on trying to help that individual overcome those obstacles is obviously the goal. And I think the only way to go about getting that accomplished is, again, I keep coming full circle to this, making sure they're getting the care they need when they're hurt.
That's the chief marker. For the person, of course. We see that every single day in practice.
I've got a question for you, because this is interesting from our perspective. We'll have individuals, we'll talk to our clients on the phone. I'm like, well, what's your pain level? Where's it hurting? They're like, here's an example. Neck, it's 8 out of 10. Okay, wow, that's high. And then it's interesting later sometimes you see it in the records, it's just not present. And I think one of the most important things, and it comes from both a doctor side and a lawyer side of educating the client, vocalization is extremely important. I say this on our social media all the time. You have to be vocal about your symptoms. If you're not, then how can you obviously get them better? But more importantly, how can the patient objectively get the care that they need to get better? And it's so mind-numbing to me. And I'm just so curious from your perspective, and I'm sure like y'all do this, but just as a general question, really, it's like, are the doctors asking the questions? I know the answer is yes, because you go subjective complaints of pain. What's your pain? You write it down.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so bizarre to me. Sometimes they just get, maybe it's nervous and like they don't want to open up. And I think that's something that we try to do a little bit different is, talk to, the client like they've been our buddies for 20 years and try to like lower that guard and build that rapport. But I'm curious from your perspective, do you find that some of the patients when they come in, they're not as vocal and it's a little confusing because you're like, I'm not in pain, but then you touch, you're like, whoa, and they flinch. You're like, whoa, wait a minute.
All the time.
What's going on here?
All the time. People don't know that they're in pain in certain areas because their pain in other areas are masking that. Like I have neck pain. Yeah. We'll palpate the lower back and they're like, whoa, what's happening there? And then that opens up a whole new injury that they didn't even know they had. They're like, what is this right here? Because everything travels, the whole body's connected. I think it is maybe nervousness. Maybe they don't know how to communicate. Maybe they're just trying to toughen up. That's what most people do. We just we take a hit and we keep moving, right? That's what I see in practice a lot. Yeah. People just want to keep moving. They don't want to make this thing, their accident, kind of rule their life for that moment in time. But they are injured and they understand that. But they come to the chiropractor many a times, right? We end up unraveling, kind of peeling an onion, if you will, those injuries. And they start to feel way better wholly, the whole body. Instead of just like, hey, my neck hurts here. It's like, when that's gone, it travels to the lower back. Like, oh, my back hurts now. I didn't know that I had that because we cleared out this and this is now. Yeah. I think people are just tough too. They don't want to relay that they're that injured. Yeah. So I know you see it on your side.
Well, no, it's funny you say that because like I immediately think of like a family member, like my dad. It's like, born in the 40s, like tough as nails. It's like, how you doing? He's like, I'm fine. But like, meanwhile, he literally just had like an artificial shoulder, like implant. You're like, how are you fine? What? But it's like, I guess more or less keeping that facade of like, to your point, this isn't going to control me. And I get that, but to some extent, it's like you guys got to lower your guard, right? And share. The more sharing is caring. You know that saying. The more you're telling them, everybody, what's going on, the more people can help, I guess, is like, but I guess it goes back to like the common sense thing. It's like, why wouldn't you share that? But it's interesting trying to understand that dynamic. And I think from our perspective, it's, you get a little clammy because, well, it's a lawyer. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Like we're all people trying to help each other, but like being more vocal is helpful. I know for a fact with our staff, we really like hammer that home. You have to share. The more you're sharing, the better. But from your side, it's interesting hearing that you see the same thing, that they're not. Oh, yeah. It takes them a minute, to your point. I'm peeling the onion to get them to like open up and be more vocal. It's like, just start with that. It would make things so much easier.
Communication with your client, sorry. Yeah. And our patients is enormous. You have to be communicative.
It makes doing the job a little easier, right?
A whole lot easier.
Over communicating and making sure they understand what's going on. But like, it's just so interesting. But yeah. Sorry. That was like a very random like tangent there. You're talking about statistics, but then like coming full circle to like such a common problem that we see often.
More statistics though, right?
More.
I got a lot of statistics today. Georgia.
The more you know. With
NBC thing.
Yeah.
300,000 car accidents in the state of Georgia on average every year. Mm-hmm. And it's just getting more and more and more congested. If somebody does get into a car accident.
I mean, the obvious thing, guys, you got to call the police. But like, let's jump back like a second and be more proactive, because I think that's where more value add is. Yeah. Here's an example. You see this a lot, and especially like in the city and more people are coming here, blah, blah, blah. You have more hit and runs. And if you don't have a dash cam and you don't have the right insurance, I mean, effectively you could be screwed. And that's it's so funny. We actually did a video. I don't even know when it was. It was probably like 2 or 3 years ago. We were in the back parking lot of my office, and my car has cameras all around it and in the front of it. So we like staged this fake like hit and run, right? Or like I had the car recording, I had the door open, and I like jumped up and down on the door frame. The car shook, and then my social media director leaves and he's flicking off the camera. He's like, hey, what would you do if you didn't have a dash cam? And it's like, and I know that's like hindsight's 2020. Well, shit, I just got in an accident. I have a dash cam. I wish I had the dash cam. This piece of advice you're giving is not helpful, but it's like, look at it from a different perspective. You're planning for the worst and then you're prepared versus the worst happens and you're ill prepared. And then you're like, well, shit, now what am I doing? Some agent sold me insurance and they didn't get me underinsured motorist. And then you're like, well, great. Now you have an accident. You don't have insurance to repair your car, let alone if you're hurt, get yourself compensated. But more importantly, you're trying to plan for the worst and be prepared, not experience the worst and be ill prepared. Can't stress that enough. Yeah. But like the basic stuff with an accident, if you get in an accident, whether you're hurt or not, that's immaterial. You need a police report. People lie. And if it's a property damage only claim, and then they're like, he swerved into my lane, be like, that's not what happened. Yeah. You literally said apologize for your, like, coming into my lane, but yet you don't have a police report. You have no narrative. So now it's they said this and you said this, and guess what? You're screwed. You're not getting your car fixed, and heaven forbid you're hurt. You're screwed because now you don't have an actual narrative of what happened. So like, err on the side of caution. People lie all the time, and you'd rather have a cop show up with a body cam footage who's literally recording it all. Yeah. So if something comes up later, they're like, that's not how it happened. We're like, well, that's interesting because we have the body cam footage where your defendant admitted A, B, or C.
Yeah. Well, the more objective you have is better. It's better than subjective, right? That's pretty much it.
Because I could say this is how it happened, but if I don't have like an independent witness. Yeah. Oh, there's another component. If you have a witness, they're like, yeah, I had a witness. They saw the whole thing. Did you get their name? No. Did you get their phone number? No. You don't have a witness then. Yeah. Like
how often does that happen?
A lot.
Yeah.
And it's like
they saw it, but
yeah.
Who saw it?
Did you talk to them? Yeah.
Yeah.
They said they saw the whole thing. You'd be like, okay, well, who's this phantom person?
Yeah.
And that's not fair, right? Because you have so much anxiety that's going on and emotion. Your adrenaline is pumping because like it's a traumatic event. You're not thinking like this. You're not thinking analytical. You're in fight or flight mode. So it's like sometimes it's overwhelming. Yeah. I mean, we post this stuff like 3 things to do, and it's like, but every idiot lawyer says the same thing. But it's true. Call the police. If you're hurt, go to the doctor. If you're contemplating hiring a lawyer, don't talk to the insurance company because they're going to record what you say.
Everything.
And it kind of goes back to what you were saying just a second ago of like lowering your guard and like us talking about, are they being vocal? Yeah. And like the thing I see, and it's so cheesy and it's so consistent, but they do it all the time. Like an insurance company will call you like within minutes or hours after an accident. And they're going to be like, hey, John, how are you doing? And you're going to be a polite Southern person. Be like, well, hey, how you doing? I'm doing okay, but I got in this accident and this hurts, that hurts, whatever.
They'll take that literally.
Yeah, 8 months from now, they'll be like, hey, Attorney Day, we spoke to your client John, and he said that he's quote okay, end quote. And it's like that's so out of context, but like it's an obstacle that's avoidable.
Yeah.
But just doing
have some representation.
or if you're contemplating that, just get your ducks in a row, then make an educated decision. But like if you're not hurt, there's no. And I tell clients this or potential clients this all the time. If you're not hurt, there's no value add for me to provide to you.
Right.
My business is to help people. It's not to like swoop in and take an attorney fee. But yes, we do this for a living. Yes, it is a business. Yes, there is a fee to do these things. But my objective is to add value. My objective is to help people. And the thing that we tell all of our clients is like, while I'd like to help you, John, or whatever, our main objective isn't that. It's really to help all of your friends, neighbors, coworkers, everyone in your social circle. And our objective is to do a good job. And if our main objective is to have you tell your friends about us or your family, the only way they're going to do that is if we do a good job. So our motivation's the same, whether it's like a $4,000 4-figure case or a 7-figure case. It's the same effort.
Totally.
And it's the same education. And I think that's where, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I think that's where some people probably don't go out of their way to do it. And I can only speak for ourselves and our team. It's like, I want to front load that client with a lot of information on how the process works. So as we hit each stage, they understand it. And it's just refreshing something. It's not learning something new unless you have like an exception to the general rule that applies, but to each is their own. But going back to your original question, what do I recommend for people to do moving to Atlanta or the people driving here is, assume the worst, right? Assume the person who hits you is going to bounce. Get a dash cam if you can. And I know, again, adrenaline's rushing. Whip your phone out, take a picture of the license plate, try to get a description, get something, but definitely call the police. 100% call the police.
Yeah.
You need to do that. If you're hurt, get treatment. If you're not, obviously don't. And just make sure that you're being aware. Actually, another thing to add on there is to make sure you have the right insurance. Underinsured motorist, you need that if someone hits you and they flee. You don't have that, you don't have a claim. Underinsured motorist for property damage, so you can have your comprehensive collision, not just regular collision, but comprehensive. Here's an example that happened to me. It's fresh. It's not really fresh, but it's trauma nonetheless. The first car I ever bought myself, right out of college, living with buddies over in Virginia Highlands. I literally watched a tree fall in my car.
Oh, no.
I started fucking laughing. I was like, well, that's why I have insurance. And I just like, do, or like whatever that like, State Farm jingle like immediately pops in. And I start laughing.
Pops up here.
I hop in a car with my friend. We go to a party, have a good night. The next morning, I don't remember what insurance company it was, but I called. I was like, hey, a tree fell in my car. I need you to come take a look at it. I need a rental, all this stuff. They're like, sorry, Charlie, you have collision, not comprehensive. Act of gods aren't covered. That was the catalyst that made me want to go to law school.
Oh, wow.
Not because, well, it was a shitty situation, but I had the wrong insurance, right? No one told me that.
Yeah. No one tells you that.
But everyone said, I'm fully fucking covered.
Yeah.
That's nothing, FYI. But it was kind of a catalyst to make sure education's important. So like when a client's coming into our law firm and we get their, it's called a declaration page, your insurance information. We do an audit and be like, hey, here's the coverage you have. Here's what you should have. Here's how it applies. And they're like, well, my agent told me I'm fully covered. Oh my God, that is the most annoying thing in the world. I am fully covered means nothing. That just means you have the minimum insurance to legally drive a car for liability purposes, meaning if you get in an accident, you have some insurance to cover damages. Doesn't mean you're fully covered. Inadequate coverage is the norm. It's really annoying.
That's really great information because I didn't know that either.
Well, most people don't, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, over a decade ago before I became a lawyer and did the law thing. But you see it firsthand. These insurance companies as a whole, their objective is to devalue your case and save themselves money. They're for profit. So when they're paying you for your property damage, your a new roof because a tornado came, or your injuries, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Pick anything under the umbrella of insurance. They're going to go out of their way to try to find reasons not to cover it. There's a video on Instagram or TikTok, or probably both. I don't remember what insurance company it was, but there is an agent on the roof looking at hail damage. And then there was also a contractor up there who was hired to do the inspection. He's like, there's clearly hail damage. There's like golf ball size holes in the tiles. And the guy's like, that's not hail damage. That's just, it was installed incorrectly. It's like, what are you talking about? But that's the norm for everything. It's deny, deny, deny. And then eventually, what percentage of all accidents or injuries or any type of home insurance claims people get the first denial and just give up?
Yeah.
That's got to be a large, talking about a statistic, that's got to be a large statistic that saves them a shit ton of money because people don't know any better or think like, I can't hire a lawyer because I can't afford it. False. First of all, like it's a contingency fee. So you're not paying any lawyer up front. And if they're asking you for money up front for an injury claim, that's the wrong lawyer. But it's really meant to make sure that you have enough information to make an educated decision and handle it correctly. It goes back to adding value, whether it's on the medical side to get someone better, the lawyer side to make sure a multi-billion-dollar company does the right thing. But newsflash, y'all, if they did the right thing, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't have gone to law school for 3 years and insurmountable amount of debt and taking a fun bar exam. Sarcasm, because they do the right thing. But we all have infinite job security because they don't do the right thing. But getting education on what to do, I think, is extremely, extremely important.
I've been in a car accident in the past. No one told me anything. They said, go to the doctor, get an MRI, and that's all you need.
Well, and the thing is, it's going to be specific to each individual, right? Yeah. So let's, making up a fact pattern. If someone has minor injuries and they don't need to have any imaging's like an MRI or X-ray or something, then, that's their course of treatment. Or if someone has, radiculopathy, the tingling in the hands, and they need an MRI and they maybe need a surgery, obviously that's individual's fact pattern for care. But I think it's so extremely important, and I know we keep coming back to this, which is kind of funny. And I feel like a broken record, but it's true. Vocalization. You have to, if you have these injuries, if you have these obstacles as a result of any type of injury, being vocal about it's important, but like, how do you know that? And if someone doesn't know that, I mean, again, you're kind of relying on, on the medical side of, well, tell me what's going on, because I can't do my job. If you come in and say everything's okay, well, if everything's okay, see you later. There's nothing for us to do.
And we got to do an exam and take images and get documentation that it's just as objective.
Finding the objective injury, so obviously it can be treated accordingly. And the same thing on the lawyer side. It's like, well, you got to be vocal too, right? And it's sharing is caring. Like, do you have insurance? No. Well, the police report says you do. So let's be on the same page here. Like, our goal is to help, right? Not to hinder. And it goes to anything in life. It's just be as vocal as you possibly can. So the assistance that you're trying to get, you can achieve. The quiet mouth doesn't get fed, so to speak.
Yeah, the squeaky wheel doesn't get in your wheel.
I'm full of these analogies. It's just like I've got it's on my iPhone. I just flipped through them. Like, today's analogy, May 13th analogy is blah 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 blah. A slip and fall versus a car accident where you call the police. You slip and fall, you're like, am I calling the police? They don't care. They're not coming. You got to get documentation, and it depends where it happens. It can be easier said than done. Reporting it is the same thing with an officer. If let's say you fall at a grocery store, make a report. Yeah. And then who did you talk to? You need to take notes of it, because they're not going to likely give you the report. They're like, we're going to keep this internally. And then
video camera footage and stuff like that.
Well, like from the lawyer side, we send something out called a spoliation letter. It just means preserve the evidence. So it just says, hey, if you've got video, keep it. Don't throw it away. But from the client perspective, if you get hurt in any type of premises, and this is, again, subjective, but let's just say it's like at a grocery store, call the manager over, call some employee over. What is the name of the person you spoke to? Right. Write it down. May I have a copy of that report? No, we can't. Okay, well, what was your name? Okay, your name is blah, blah, blah. I'm going to write that down. And you told them at this time that I did this and this happened. And that's just helpful. Yeah. Again, you're not always thinking about that. If someone's hurt, they're going to be like, I'm in pain. Yeah. The last thing I want to do is talk to John Doe dipshit over here and write his name down and then put it in my pocket for later. I'm like, I want to go to the doctor, but it's trying to be present in the moment to think about those things. But like, what if you fall in a parking lot? Who are you going to go tell? That's a different story, and it makes it more challenging. Well,
their adrenaline, first off, is always high when it's happening. When the car accident happens, they slip and fall. They're in that 100%. Adrenal and high adrenal stage. And within a couple of days, that leaks out. Within really 24 hours, it starts to escape the body, and then they really feel the pain after that.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because I've seen that in multiple instances where it's like they get in an accident and it's like, wow, you're lucky to be alive. I'm okay. I think I'm a little sore. I just think I'm like, tense. And then, a few days later, you're like, I'm going to the emergency room because I can't move. It's scary because the body's releasing, like, as you pointed out, a bunch of adrenaline, and then the inflammation is starting to set in, and it gets worse and worse. And I'm not a doctor, but just using logic here, if it's inflamed, one would think you want to put ice on it to control the inflammation. But a lot of times individuals don't want to do the ice. They want something like a hot heat pack or like a hot bath. Yeah. And then it's
making it worse.
What's opening up the blood. So then there's more going to that area. So then the inflammation gets worse. And it's almost an adverse impact. But it's interesting because you see a lot of the discharge from hospitals will say ice, heat, off and on, ice, heat, off and on.
They don't specify, right?
No. It's saying go back and forth. Yeah. And then I've also seen it the complete opposite. So I'm going from logic again, not a doctor. It just seems to me if you're having any inflammation, ice would make the inflammation go down and maybe make it a little bit more tolerable and like a wrist injury is an example. I broke my wrist when I was younger playing sports. Obviously it was broken. I had to get an x-ray, but it's like the first thing that they did, it was like ice pack. And this thing looked like this, literally hanging down.
Had a club for a hand.
And I put my head down and I was playing hockey and I got hit from behind. I felt it. And then I looked down and I just went like ghost white. It was brutal.
Is there a bone sticking out anywhere?
No bone sticking out, but it was just dangling like it was looking like this.
Not working.
It's like my tiny hand over here is just like it was just very bizarre, but they put ice on it. They're like, this is going to help. I'm like, you give me, that's bullshit.
You need a little bit more.
Yeah, like harpoon me with like, I don't know, some kind of pain medication. It just hurt. But I don't know. It's interesting seeing on the discharge about that. The inflammation thing. It's like, put ice on it. That makes sense.
Makes total sense. If it's hot, which is inflammation, flame, put some ice on it. you're going to add heat to it. It's going to make it worse. It's going to inflame it even more. It'll kill the pain, but it will inflame it even more.
Probably, and just logic again. If like it numbs the pain temporarily, then it's more inflamed and causes more problems with the nerves. It's like, well, now it's an adverse impact. But I mean, that goes back full circle. If you're hurt, go see a doctor.
Totally.
Teach their own here, right? Like if you're not hurt, you don't go. If you don't know if your adrenaline's kicking, you don't need to go. If you start feeling a lot of pain, like what are you going to do? Sit at home and tell your parents, or like go on TikTok or Instagram? Well, I'm in a lot of pain. Go do something.
Do something about it.
Yeah, like
action's key.
Yeah.
2 big takeaways from this: you got to vocalize what's happening, and you have
100%.
to take action. Car accident, call the cops first. Get a police report. If you're injured, go see a doctor, and call an attorney.
Here's the thing too about whatever teachers their own, whoever like you feel comfortable with. I would tell a client, hire that person, but it doesn't cost anything to reach out. It's called a consultation. They're free. So you can actually get guidance to, well, from our perspective, if I'm being candid, to see if we can add value. If we can add value, great. We want to help. If not, then it's like, well, we can't help. It's a property damage only claim. I can't help the property damage only claim because that would be really shitty to take an attorney fee. It's like, hey, it's $5,000 or $9,000 to fix your car, and I'm going to take a third of it. And it's like, how are you going to fix your car? That's stupid.
Yeah.
If you're hurt, go get treatment. If you're not, you're not. It's fine. But just be honest with yourself about the pains, because it's not going to help yourself. And again, a consultation, it's free. So if you're contacting any lawyer, you'd be like, what should I do? Here's my fact pattern. Do you think it's a case? Yes, no, or something in between. But I think all of it comes back to just making sure you're getting the education and getting advised. And if you're not getting that advice, it's like, well, that's not helpful. So obviously ask questions.
Yeah.
Be involved, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to sitting there like, well, do you have any questions? Nope. Are you sure? Have you ever done this before? Nope. Okay. Sure you don't have questions? I'd like to think we do a really good job of explaining, but you're sure?
You got to take it out of them sometimes, right?
Yeah. Well, it's, ask a couple times just to make sure they're good. Not getting care. I mean,
that's a big mistake.
That's huge. That either makes or breaks a case right from the get-go. If they don't do that, then it's like, hey, I got hurt a year ago. Did you go to the doctor? No.
And I wonder why that
No
happens, right? Like, why do patients wait, or why do clients actually wait for that to happen?
I honestly think it deals with understanding the process and not knowing. I cannot tell you how many times they're like, well, they call first and they're like, does it cost anything to like give a consultation? I'm like, no, not at all. It's like, this is what we do. We want to make sure we're giving you advice.
No obligation.
No, we don't. It's 100% contingency. I could work 10 years on a case. If I don't get a recovery, like, I'm not like, oh, here's my bill. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So that's the business risk from our standpoint. But like, everything sounds great, but I can't afford you. Like, why would you think that? It's because I've seen it on TV. Lawyers are expensive. No, that's so incorrect. Like, different law, right? If it's like a criminal defense attorney or family law attorney, you have to pay up front. But a contingency fee basis lawyer, like what I do, or millions of us do for that matter, you don't have to pay anything up front. It's all from
it all comes off of what happens at
the recovery, which it's mutually. The objective is to make sure that you're helping. So it's like, I think it goes back to the education portion. I think that's why a lot of people don't, because they just don't know the process, or, maybe they had a bad experience once, so they don't want to do it again. But it's like, do your homework, like in anything. You're going to go buy something without researching it first? No. You're going to hire someone who's going to represent your best interest without researching them? No.
Yeah.
So like,
it's due diligence and all these things, right?
Do your homework.
3 big takeaways: communicate, take some action. And the last one, I'm drawing a blank here.
It's the first one, and it's call the police if you get in an accident.
Number 1.
And that is your friendly reminder from your neighborhood attorney.
Document. That was the third one. Document everything you have, because you got to represent.
The calling of the police, documenting it.
Right. Injuries as well.
With everything. But the most important thing, if that ever happens, is like, hey, don't call the police. I promise you my insurance is effective.
Don't trust that guy.
No, because it just doesn't. If it doesn't pass the smell test, it's probably shit. So like, you don't want to deal with that. That doesn't make sense.
I love it. Well, dude, thank you for coming in. It's been an amazing conversation.
Thank you for having us. I'm going to go home and do fatherly duties now.
We do this again, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm going to bring my LaCroix with me. I'm taking it with me.
Ciao. Thanks, everybody.
My name is Attorney Michael Day. So 3 tips that we were just going over on the Easewell podcast. The most basic one is if you get injured in an accident, you got to make sure you're calling the police. Even if you're not injured, call the police. You need documentation of this so you can make sure that you're not getting screwed if someone's lying, right? Number 2, super important. If you're hurt, seek treatment. If you're injured, you should be seen by a doctor. If you're not a doctor, going home and trying to self-medicate and you don't know what's going on internally, that could really hurt you in the long run. So you want to make sure that you're getting any doctor's appointments that you need and making sure, thirdly, that you're vocal. This is so important. Anything in life, communication. You don't want to have a communication breakdown. You want to make sure that you're being vocal about any injuries that you have. And number 3 goes back to number 1 when you call the police. Be vocal about how that happened. If there's an accident, make sure that you're explaining everything to the T, because individuals will lie on the other side if they can try to get away from taking responsibility of fixing your car or, heaven forbid, you get injured, compensating for that. So call the police, be vocal. Number 2, if you're injured, make sure you're going to the doctor. And then number 3, vocal, which goes back to number 1 and number 2. Those 3 tips. And if you have any other needs for any future tips, feel free to follow us at Michael the Super Lawyer on Instagram. Post a lot of fun videos, try to make it really interesting and understanding so that everyone can comprehend. I like to think it's pretty good content, but that's also biased. But there you have it.